What's good, everybody? This your boy D Money. We on another episode of the A Lot of Fashion podcast. Make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button because primarily what we've been talking about is building a product from nothing. And what we're going to talk about today is making sure you build an audience before you need one. So make sure you stay tuned. Make sure you also check out our From the Mud collection, which is available on our website. We also have, the spoken word album, which is on all streaming platforms, and the poetry book, which is on all book platforms and at your local library. So lock in. So let's get into it. Main message here today is, audience building should happen before any launch. Best time to build, an audience is before you need actual customers because, really building an audience, takes time, takes effort, it takes, a strategic plan. And, you don't want to be putting out, random messages, random posts, that's not consistent with what you are trying to, ultimately get out to the public and, the message that you're trying to carry for your brand. Number one is attention takes time, like we pretty much are talking about. Audiences grow slowly. Platforms, gradually let you grow. There's pretty much, somewhat of a cap in the beginning. But, once you build trust through, the audience or algorithm, then, it will expand and, trust compounds gradually. You know what I'm saying? It takes, people to build that familiarity with you and, seeing you consistently over and over and over and over again just to, number one, believe in what you're saying. And then on top of that, see, results from what you have to offer. I remember, reading in a spiritual virtue book from Deepak Chopra that, once you show somebody something 7 or 8 times over and over again, they'll, start to believe and even like it. So, visibility requires patience. You got to take your time. Like I said, you got to come up with a strategic plan and you got to stick to the plan. You can't veer off. You can't be, putting out, mixed messages. You can't, put messages that, don't necessarily align with the brand. You got to keep it totally business. Even with the entertainment aspect of it, it's got to align with the overall message. Number 2 is education before selling. So necessarily, when we're talking about education, we're not saying that, you got to become a teacher, but you definitely got to sound like an expert with what you're putting out there. You know what I'm saying? Value builds authority. So when it comes to a product, don't necessarily got to be telling, people that, oh yeah, it's got, it's completely organic, has zero, fat in it, blah, blah, blah. If it's a, something like that where it has like an astronomical, change in things and it's completely healthy, that's one thing. But, if you're just going off of what it says on the back of the product label, then you're not really educating the consumer. You got to show how it actually is going to bring value to their life and, ultimately create a change or a spark to a change. Helpful brands gain loyalty, and they gain loyalty much faster than, other brands. And that's why, we're sitting here talking about creating with meaning and, making sure that you sound and are ultimately an expert with your product. Education, creates that trust, it builds foundation, and ultimately, creates good conversion for your business. Number 3 is own the relationship. Community ownership, platforms can change overnight. So making sure that you have a direct communication with your audience, your community that you're building matters, especially nowadays where, you know what I'm saying, the inflation is high. People don't have as much money to spend um, as usual. And, you know what I'm saying, it causes a ruckus within the market. So, you know, making sure that you email your audience. If you have, you know, a way to set up text messages, SMS, you know, messaging with your audience creates even more stability because you have an even more direct, you know, communication line with your audience. And that's the main thing. You want to stay connected with your community as much as possible. And, you know, an audience is one of the most valuable assets for a business. You feel me? Because number one, they're the ones that, you know, indulge on your product or services if you have a service. And then on top of that, they are the ones that are going to support your brand, you know, through thick and thin. So you got to appreciate your customers, but you also got to do things with care so that way they get a you know, added benefit out of the things that you're putting out into the world. So like I always say, man, come up with a solid plan, do the proper research, execute that motherfucker, and your dreams and goals will come to fruition. Like I said before, also as well, make sure that you check out the From the Mud collection. It's available on our website. I appreciate all the day ones for showing love. And if today is your first day being a day one, appreciate you as well too. It's nice to get started. Now, keep visualizing your purpose. I'm out.